The September 11 attacks, or what we call 9/11, were a series of 4 coordinated suicide attacks against the United States on Tuesday, September 11, 2001, 10 years ago this week. On that fateful day, 19 al-Qaeda terrorists hijacked 4 passenger jets. The hijackers intentionally crashed 2 planes into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York City, and both towers collapsed within 2 hours. Hijackers crashed a 3rd plane into the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia. When passengers tried to take control of the 4th plane, U.S. Airlines Flight 93, it crashed into a field near Shanksville, Pennsylvania, preventing it from reaching its intended target in Washington, D.C. Nearly 3,000 persons died in this attack. Tuesday, September 11, seemed like any other day at Stuyvesant High School, only a few blocks from the World Trade Center. The school year was just beginning, and the students, faculty, and staff were ready to start a new year. Within a few hours of that day, they would experience an event that transformed all their lives completely. Here, in their own words, are the first-hand stories of a day that will never be forgotten.
Annie Thomas, English teacher and editor of With Their Eyes, September 11th, The View from a High School at Ground Zero. I teach school English 4 blocks from Ground Zero. On the morning of September 11th, I walked up the subway stairs and onto Chambers Street, as I do every morning on my way to work. The sky was a bright blue, the day crisp. But as I left the subway station, I saw clouds of gray smoke hanging in the air above me. The street was filled with people, everybody staring up, so I looked up. The World Trade Center was on fire, flames leaping from an angry gash in the side of the North Tower. Stuyvesant High School is 4 blocks north of the World Trade Center. At the western edge of Manhattan, from its windows, students, faculty, and staff have clear views of the Hudson River, the Statue of Liberty, and from the south side, the World Trade Center. On September 11th, this meant the hundreds of Stuyvesant students saw the planes hit, saw people jumping from their office windows, saw the towers fall. These monologues you are about to see, performed in the character and voice of the people who wrote them, faculty, staff, and students from Stuyvesant High, not far from Ground Zero.
Zhang, sophomore. I saw this huge plane. It looked much bigger than the first one. It looked like one of those jets, in the movies, Air Force One or something. One of those big jets. It was one of those, it hit the building right there.
Ilya Felcherov, senior. I walked into physics, which is right after French. That's when I see the building, and then I see the smoke. And I'm like, something pretty bad's going on. And then I felt it. We sat there in physics, watching for a while, and one of my friends was going crazy because his parents were boarding a plane that morning to go somewhere. He wasn't sure what plane it was or where it came from, and I was telling him there's really no chance of them being on that plane. And we all stared out the window, and we were all just numbed. We saw people running, and then about 20 minutes into the period, the top of the building fell. And then we were watching the building fall. We're watching it from a distance. I usually don't get afraid easily, but I was really afraid. I just felt it. This is really happening.
Renee Levine, building coordinator. In 1993, the bang was very, very loud. This time, the band wasn't as loud. I went downstairs to the first floor because I knew from 1993 that the Secret Service was going to use this as a triac center. At that point, when I went downstairs, there were people starting to come in from the outside because they wanted to use the telephones. There were some mothers with carriages, and then the announcement came to leave the building. The police were outside. They're saying, "Run." At that point, there were some kids crying, and I told the kids, every kid I saw, because I couldn't keep my homeroom together, I said, "Okay, I'm waiting to hold someone's hand. I don't care if you know them or not. Just hold hands with someone and don't look back." And I didn't look back. I do not remember the buildings coming down. I did see the lights flicker, and then we all just ran down to Pier 40. I knew that the chances of getting transportation were going to be minimal, and I said, if you live in Manhattan, go home. If you have anybody, an office in Manhattan, uptown, walk. You're going to walk. And take somebody with you from Queens, Staten Island, and Brooklyn. Just take them home until things get straightened out. I ran into a bunch of boys on the way, and I said, "Where are you going? Are you all right?" They were together. That was good. And they said they were going to give blood at St. Vincent's.
Tony Keene, sophomore. Once we came out, we saw the big smoke. I don't know, when people started talking about this was a terrorist attack, I was completely, I just couldn't accept that. I don't know. I was just coming into myself that this wasn't the case, that this was probably just an accident. Yeah, well, when people say that, sometimes your rationality fails you during a time of crisis. I never believed that until that day, but the soot and the dust was so dense we couldn't see anything. So I didn't know that both were, down already.
Aliyah Ghaffar, junior and Red Cross volunteer. The day of 9/11, I went home. I didn't even think about going to Red Cross. I really just wanted to make sure everybody in my family was okay. And even though I did lose one of my aunts, I really didn't want to keep thinking about, she was missing, and we didn't know where she was. And the next day, Red Cross called me in the morning and was like, "Can you come in?" And I really didn't know if I wanted to stay at home, but I figured, you know what, I need to get my mind off of everything. I need to do something. I felt really helpless just staying at home. We opened up the shelter at Shea Stadium. They'd say 300 firefighters would be coming from Brooklyn, Ohio, and Parma, Ohio. They were amazing people. I mean, you'd see them come in with all their gear, and they're all dusty and everything, and you kind of make them feel better. Giving them a hot meal and giving them new clothes. They drove the day it happened. They all just got in their cars and drove down here. And I thought that was really, really amazing.
Katherine Fletcher, English teacher and 9 months pregnant. I remember saying to my class, actually, I want you to know that we're all perfectly safe. Believe me, if I thought we were in danger, I would leave. We would leave. We would be leaving. It's funny because for the first 3 months, I would say, after the attacks, I felt actively sort of an active sense of fear every day. I think everyone felt. And then one day, I just sort of felt less afraid. I do think that people show each other, I've always found New York to be a friendly place. New York is not unfriendly, and I've always felt that the same way, everywhere in the world in cities, people really bond together when something disastrous happens, like a blizzard or a tornado or You know, when something big happens, then all of a sudden everyone is really nice to each other on the streets or whatever. I guess I do feel that some people show each other more kindness, and I felt like this year more people wished me a Happy New Year, for instance, than normal. You know, I believe that. You know, I really believe in healing, and I believe that the city will be healed. I think you have to believe that.
Mira Rabhooper, senior. I went to all those vigils that happened in Union Square right afterwards, and it was just the most amazing experience. Like, it gave me so much faith in New York. I was almost more like nostalgic, but optimistic and hopeful and forgiving and trusting of people that I ever would have thought anyone could be in this situation. Every time I walked down 6th Avenue and saw the empty space, I would start to cry a little bit. And every time I saw someone with an American flag, I would feel a little bit better. It doesn't mean nationalism to me. To me, it means like spirit and like pride, and not necessarily just your country, but pride in yourself as a person and as a community, like some part of the American spirit.
Karan Levigian, theater manager. Okay, the stories. I've handled the Stuyvesant American flag more than anyone else in this building for the past 8.5 years. I kept good care of it. I kept it in this one corner on the stage so that nothing would happen to it. When it came here from the old school, one of the wings got broken off the flagpole. Then, during one of the sing rehearsals, the other wing got broken off. When we came back to school, I was looking around the building. So I was looking all over the building for the flag, and I couldn't find it. Just kept looking and looking, just randomly. One particular morning, I was on the stage and I saw the bass. By coincidence, somebody showed me one of those books that was published that had to do with September 11th. And I'm looking through it, looking at the pictures, and came across a picture of firemen installing a flag on the mast of the World Trade Center. And I looked at the picture and my jaw dropped. It was our flag. She said, "How do you know?" I said, "I handled it more than anybody else," and I described the flag from one end to the other. The brown wooden staff, the 6-inch brass coupling that held the two pieces together, and the eagle missing both of its wings. You know, seeing that picture, seeing those wings missing, symbolizes to me the fact that the Trade Center is gone. Okay. The wings symbolize the Twin Towers. They're both gone, but the flag is still waving.